Today, I'm going to show you 11 different fabrics that all beginners should know. I'm going to explain what they are and why they're ideal for beginners, but I want you to keep one thing in mind. There are tons of fabrics to choose from, but think about what you want to make. Like, what is your ideal goal project? And list out all the fabrics you need for it. As you watch this video, see if there are some fabrics you could substitute into your project to make it easier, maybe more so just for your first run at it, or a prototype or a practice run. And the reason I say this is because my recommendation to beginners is start with easy to use fabric to help you learn how to sew. Then after you've built a solid foundation for sewing, you can start using fabrics that require a bit more skill or technique. And big thanks to Shopify for kindly sponsoring this video, which I feel like their platform might be very useful for a lot of you in your creative endeavors. Hopefully this video helps too. All right, let's get this show on the road. There are a million types of fabrics. I'm only gonna show you the easy ones. And the first one, wovens. What are woven fabrics? These are fabrics where the fibers are weaved together at right angles. Some common woven fabrics, you got cotton twills, denim, and canvas. But I have to clarify, cotton twill, it's a broad term. It's used a lot, but it also means a lot. For example, denim is a type of cotton twill, and I feel like people are really specific when they call it denim versus the maybe lesser known cotton twills. Instead of being specific, people just use the word cotton twill. Cotton twill refers to the fiber and weave type. The fabric is breathable, and in general, it's a very easy fabric to work with, especially for beginners. It's a fabric that I highly recommend for beginners learning how to sew online because they have a lot of options that lay in the ideal weight threshold where it's not too light to the point of being flimsy, but not too heavy that it challenges your sewing machine. There is polycotton, which is a blend of cotton and polyester, and this combo gives you the best of both worlds. It's durable, resists wrinkles, and it doesn't shrink too much. It has a smoother texture, and it's less likely to fade. And then you have 100% cotton. It's exactly what it sounds like, pure cotton. It's soft, breathable, and all natural. Great for comfort like clothes and quilts. However, it is prone to shrinking and wrinkling. So if you're after something more durable and easier to care for, go for polycotton. If you're after a more natural feel with breathability, 100% cotton is your answer. Choosing the right fabric makes a big difference. How it feels, how it wears, how comfortable it is, or maybe how practical it is. It all matters. But then we have denim. And denim is a fan favorite. It's a very popular choice of fabric, especially for sewing classics like jeans. And it can be tricky for beginners. It's a rather thick material, so when you're going through multiple layers, let's say you're going through 4 layers of fabric, like for this jean jacket, you just want to be careful. Not saying it's impossible, but home sewing machines can only handle such thick material, so proceed with caution and just take care of your sewing machine. Canvas, on the other hand, is not a twill. It's because its weave type is called a plain weave. It's a heavy-duty fabric. Sometimes it comes light, but because it's so heavy, it's usually used for bags, home decor, sometimes outdoor gear because of its durability. Its weight makes it easy for beginners, but too many layers also makes it tricky for the sewing machine. Because of the nature of the fabric, it's often used in pants, jackets, dresses, shirts. It's a very versatile fabric. It's very easy to work with, and that's wovens. But there's still knits. Knit fabrics are made by looping fibers together. It's a bit harder to show with this rope, but you can see it's not joined as tightly. There's a lot more room to move around, which is what gives knit its stretch. These loops create stretch in the fabric, and because of that, it's a little bit trickier to work with. A little bit. And 4 basic types I think you should know: jersey, French terry, fleece, and rib knit. Jersey. Think t-shirts. Lightweight, smooth on both sides. French terry. It's similar, but it tends to be thicker than jersey. This is the fabric that I use for my DIY kits because it's thicker, so it's less likely to get jammed in your throat plate, and just overall makes it so much easier for beginners to work with. It'll usually have a smooth feel on the right side and then these loose braids that are on the wrong side. It could be mid-weight for a heavier feel, like these boxy tees, or it could be heavyweight for a sweater or sweats. Another knit to talk about, fleece. Think sweaters, crew necks, sweatpants, even blankets. Fleece is a very thick knit and it helps keep the body very warm. There are different types of fleece. This is called brush fleece, sometimes called sweatshirt fleece. Smooth on one side and fluffy, very fluffy on the other side. There's another type, it's called polar fleece. This is like very fluffy on both sides. So you get fluffy, double the fluffy action. I guess the right term for fluffy is pile, which is the raised surface or nap of a fabric. Whenever I think of knit, whether it's jersey, French terry, or one of the fleeces, you'll almost always run into working with rib knit as well. Rib knit's that ribbed material. It's very stretchy. You might see it on cuffs, collars, or the hems. Anytime you think of knit, think stretch. Think soft and comfy. And know that knit does require different stitch settings and needles, but that's all covered in my tutorials. Those are the main fabrics that I find myself primarily working with, but there are some other fabrics that are worth noting. Broadcloth. It's a lightweight, tightly woven fabric, usually cotton or polycotton, so sometimes it'll be used for light shirts, dresses, home decor like pillows, because it's so light. Very light, lets in a lot of brightness. Very bright. And then you have muslin. This one's light as well and is one of the most used fabrics by all designers. Let me explain. Muslin is a plain weave cotton and it comes in different weights, but you'll most likely find it in a lightweight version. The reason so many designers and sewists use muslin is because it's affordable, it's breathable, and it's very easy to work with. It's basically the fabric you want to use to test out your designs before you touch your valuable fabric. Now this is perfect. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but muslin is the perfect fabric for practicing. It's good for beginners, it's affordable, it's a really good starter fabric. Now this is the type of fabric that I want to add to my online store on Shopify, who's the sponsor for this video. When I first started my channel, I knew I wanted to open a store so that I could offer fabric and sewing patterns to go along with my sewing videos. I remember strategically choosing Shopify because I knew it was the most user-friendly and easy to manage commerce platform for starting a business. That's the one right there. Look, I know a lot about sewing. I know nothing about coding, but this is how easy it is to upload a product. I'm very passionate about making sewing more accessible for everyone, and Shopify's helped me achieve this beyond just content. I'm not just making recommendations in my YouTube videos, but I'm taking a step further. I can actually provide these items for people through the Shopify YouTube integration. That's meaningful to me because I'm able to get more involved. I'm able to contribute more to other folks on their journey of learning how to sew. If you've ever considered starting a clothing line or selling handmade items, whether it's clothes, ceramics, jewelry, crafts, anything, selling anything, I'd personally recommend checking out Shopify because they just empower people like us to become entrepreneurs. Go to shopify.com/GloryAllan. You'll get your free trial. Try it. Trust me, it's worth it. There's no other commerce platform out there that compares. Now, I've mentioned fabric weight a few times. Sometimes I'll say lightweight, sometimes I'll say medium weight or heavyweight. But what does that even mean? Well, fabric weight is the density or thickness of fabric. And it can make a pretty big difference in how your project turns out. As a beginner, you'll never have to do this, but this round cutter sampler cuts the fabric into exactly 1/100th of a square meter. So when you weigh the fabric, you can multiply it by 100 and you'll get the exact GSM, a common unit of measurement for fabric. Most of the time, the store you buy from should know the GSM, but it's just a fun way to check. Now that you know what to look for, here are some general tips when working with fabric. The first tip is to pre-wash your fabric. Do this before you cut or sew your fabric because fabrics have shrinkage to them and you don't want to find that out after you've already finished your garment. The second tip is to test your stitches. Grab a piece of scrap fabric, double it up, do a couple stitches, just to fine tune your stitch settings. You want to make sure your length and your tension's right so that you start your project on the right foot. Third tip is using the right needle. The right needle will be based on the fabric you're using. So if you're using a knit fabric, you might want to use a jersey or ballpoint needle. If you're working with wovens, it's probably going to be a sharp or universal needle. The size will be based on how thick the fabric is, and this will again help prevent you from running into issues that prevent snagging, puckering, or like causing holes in the weaves. So you want to make sure you have the right needle. And the next step would be make sure you know what the right and wrong side of your fabric is. Some fabrics, it's easy to tell. On the right side, it's usually going to be darker or more intense color. Sometimes it's even smoother. And on the wrong side, it's usually a little bit more dull, sometimes more rough. Some fabrics, it's easy to tell. Others, not so much. Some of them don't have a wrong side, both sides are right. So make sure you know that before starting your project. And the last concept, it's probably one of the hardest ones to grasp for beginners, but it's very, very important. And that's a grain line. And grain line matters because it'll determine how clothes drape and stretch on your body. Grain line is the direction in which the fabric threads are woven or knitted. Think of it like lines or pathways that run through your fabric. This is how you can understand grain line for beginners. There's two main types, which I've demonstrated with these ropes. Let's focus on the blue ones first. The blue ones are the lengthwise grain. This is the strong, stable direction that runs along the fabric's edge, aka the selvage. It's the least stretchy part of the fabric, which is good for providing structure. So you usually want your clothes to run like this. Running these lines vertically along your body will give your clothes the stability and strength that they need. Then you have the crosswise grain. This runs across the fabric and has a little bit more give than the lengthwise grain, but it still holds things together decent. Your clothes will have more stretch horizontally instead of vertically, which is helpful for things like the sleeve or the bodice width. The third grain line is the true bias, which runs diagonal, and this has the most stretch, but I didn't mention it earlier because it's rarely used, mostly because it's hard to handle and it won't hold its structure for as long. If you cut your fabric in the right direction, your clothes should hold its shape and hang the way it's supposed to. So keep this in mind next time you're sewing or fabric shopping, and until next time, peace.